being the family Cursebreaker. Congratulations, you have been dealt the hardest job there is in your family line. So in this, there's going to be certain topics you need to be aware of, so I'll cover them quickly. First off, we have the black sheep of the family. And that's a common term. Most of us has heard it before. We all choose roles within the family system. And that goes along with being the family hero, the family savior, the family's angel, the golden child, the family clown, and you're going to see these ones represented in classrooms, workplaces, all of those settings as well. And we have the black sheep, the person that stands out in the family and usually is the one that sees things from a different viewpoint or a different angle. They don't necessarily say this out loud, they don't necessarily revolt or question things. They just know and feel and sense that something's off because they don't feel like they belong, like they fit in, or like they are truly actually accepted within the unity or group, regardless of whether or not they make it seem like they are a part of the group setting. Next up we have the scapegoat of the family, and this is the person that is blamed for everything. It's like the family trash can where anything that goes wrong or any kind of responsibility or accountability is pushed onto this one person. Make it make sense or not, whether or not it is logical or not, it's still going to be like that. They're going to be at fault for being drunk. They're going to be at fault for not being drunk. They're going to be at fault for not being drunk enough or being too sober. It's never going to be enough. They're constantly being told that they're doing wrong and that everything is their fault. And sometimes it's not verbally, it's not admitted, but it is what it is, and you can sense and notice it, even though they would deny this fact and say that we've never blamed you for anything. Meanwhile, it's all the time. Usually, and this is my viewpoint on this, I'm not a professional, when you mix these two roles, so you've been the black sheep and you've been the scapegoat, you've told what you see, and you've told what you don't agree with, you've questioned, and you've started standing up and actually proclaiming that you can see that this is wrong, this is not normal, what are we doing, why are we doing it? That's when you become the family Cursebreaker. And it's a hybrid version of all of these. It's the one that starts standing up and wanting to make changes. And this is not conscious. A lot of us do think that, yeah, I'm gonna be the one to change this. But for a lot of people, it's not conscious. This is not something you plan, or you don't dress up with a cape saying, I'm the Cursebreaker. Often it's done subconsciously. The decision to become the family Cursebreaker was made the second you started questioning. When you stopped being silent. You stopped upholding the status quo. You broke the silence. You knew you weren't to question. You knew you weren't to talk about this. And yet you did. And that's when you become the Cursebreaker. Often they are the black sheep and the scapegoat at the same time. They might be the rebel, etc. as well. The fourth term. When you are these things and you start questioning, you're going to be the fourth person. You're going to be gaslighted and made out and smeared by the family or the group or entity or setting to be the problem child. And that's regardless on whether or not you actually were. They're going to try and pin that onto you if they so even need to fabricate it falsely. Now, what can this look like? They can say that you were an alcoholic even though you never drank in your entire life. They can go on to say that you have ODD and try to investigate that and have you examined for that and diagnosed medically with that, being oppositional defiance disorder. And this is insane because if you read up on this, these are the children that tossed around chairs in the classroom and beat their teacher with a frying pan during a lecture, and you're quickly going to realize they tried to make you out to be crazy, because we're often targets for crazy making. Because if they can label you insane or not entirely intellectually there, make it out to be like you're stupid, low intelligence, or not capable, or not sane, they can say that anything you as a family curse breaker is saying about the family is your delusions, your dreamt up scenarios that never happened. So it's an act of defense and war on the one person they know can tear down the image of the system or the group or the family. And that's why they've told you your whole life that you can't remember anything. But that's another video. So these parts is important to know when we're talking about the family curse breaker within a system. And this doesn't need to be a family setting. This can also be just like the scapegoat and the problem child. This can be the problem healthcare seeker, or it could be the problem employee. And this is more common than you think. So it becomes the workplace curse breaker. And you're often going to find the old family curse breaker being the same in the workplace and other settings. So, as the family curse breaker, you somewhere along the line in the happy group system, everything is happy, everything is fine, everything is handy and dandy, and it's status quo and intact. Everyone feels belonging, everyone feels like hugging each other. But along the way you discovered that this wasn't so, that this was an illusion. Because as you went along, you discovered the skeletons in the closet, the elephant in the room that had been hidden by showing this image outwardly. You also started realizing, as the curse breaker, that the reason these people did this was because the people before them was conditioned and taught the same thing. So the grandparents in this situation, or the former owners of the company, or whatever it is in this case, did the exact same thing. And it was taught and passed onward to this generation, and now this is going to be attempted to be spread so that you will fall in line and do the same thing yourself. So this is your whole bloodline behind you. And the reason you're having issues is because no one broke this programming. Everyone inherited the same views on things and were conditioned all along, in several steps along the way, to keep on having this pattern of whatever this part is. To figure out the problem, you view the pattern of the family and find the common problem. Now, what would be instances of this? Abuse, toxicity, substance abuse. We're only going to write substances. Or family secrets. No one needs to talk about this. It's secret. Don't spread this. We're going to keep this secret within the family until hell breaks loose. So we're passing on the torch to you. So the torch was over here, and we're passing it over here, and now we're passing it to you. And somewhere along the line, as a family Cursebreaker, you're going to question, why are we doing these things? Why do we have a policy of silence? Why do we have family secrets? Why is everything so abusive and toxic? Well, when you start questioning and reviewing that, you're suddenly going to find whatever is hidden and buried. The skeletons in the closet is eventually going to show up and be clear to you. And as you question this, everyone that's carried the torch is going to be widely upset by you and is going to say that you're crazy, weird, you're not acting the same, you're not acting right, you have all these crazy ideas all of a sudden. So they will start to try and crazy make you outwardly into the world. They expect you to do the same thing and fall in line and protect the family secrets by doing the same thing yourself. But as you asked, what's the problem here? Why are we doing things like this? You stopped carrying the torch. The only one that's still carrying the torch are these people from before, and you're threatening the whole family system. And what we're talking about here is dysfunctional family systems. And this is a topic that is not talked about enough, because it's not just dysfunctional family systems. You will find dysfunction in all different kinds of systems as you go along life. They will fool you into believing that as you get out of the family system, this part is not going to be a problem anymore. But you're going to realize that the more circumstances you find yourself in, there's always, or very often, an unhealthy system, an unhealthy dynamic in the group, because they all have the skeletons in the closet that craves for these group secrets, the silencing culture. So, what happens as a Cursebreaker, when you're the family Cursebreaker, your task is, and what you're probably subconsciously already doing is, to make sure that when you have kids, the torch that has been passed on will not arrive at the next person. You had pain. Growing up in this system, you knew no better than to carry this torch that was painful to carry. It hurt, it damaged you, it traumatized you, it at least in some way affected who you became. So you dropped it. You realize that the pain stops here. It shouldn't be like this. This is dysfunctional. This is unhealthy. I want a healthy family dynamic. And when you start talking about healthy family dynamic, as I said, these people are going to have a panic. They don't want to change. They want to keep up with this because they've already accepted it, because they've carried the torch for so long that they intended for you to inherit it. When you drop this torch, you're also dropping the pain. And that creates envy within all of these past people that did not do that. How dare you do what they didn't do? And then you're starting to see envy, rage, anger, discontent, and even despising you. You're all of a sudden going to feel like you don't have a bridge over to your former family anymore. And that's the point. This point is vividly critical because when you make the decision, they've helped you to break half of the curse. You stopped carrying the torch and you started questioning, and they broke you off in some kind of way, symbolically or actually. They stopped inviting you, they stopped being friendly and supportive, they stopped sharing family details. You aren't invited to the dinners anymore, it might be anything. It's different for all of us. As you made that decision, you're also going to face the decision that the next person, your child, your future legacy, won't be to pass the torch on. And if you don't have children, this will be your friends or your surrounding circumstances. And I'll get to that. But it's going to be everyone. It might be colleagues or anything else here, friends, etc. So what happens here is that you stop passing it on. Which means that the pain, the skull of death here, stopped with you. And it's not pouring on to the next generation. And that means they will not pass it over to the next generation either. You broke the chain. You broke the curse. And the reason we're calling it a curse is because when you have this skeleton in the closet, everyone in this bloodline is going to ask themselves, why don't we earn money? Why are we all depressed? Why are we all burnt out? Why do we all struggle with social acceptance? Why are we all treated the same way? Why have we always been the village outcasts? Why does no one talk to us? And they're wondering if there's a curse placed over them. Yeah, well, kind of it is. But you chose to break it. It stops with you. They are holding the curse now. You're not holding any curses. You've tied the connection to the skeletons in the closet. And now they're afraid because you might expose them. So now you've become enemy number 1 and threat number 1. But you're going to be able to have a loving relationship and a healthy relationship to your children. And also, more importantly perhaps, your children's children over here. So any future generations will have a good relationship to you, your children, their children, and so forth. That is as long as none of these people manages to pass the torch to one of the grandchildren, one of the 4 grandchildren, because then you've started the chain all over. You at least spared 1, 2, 3, 4 people in this situation. This person is going to be the new torchbearer. The one that carries the skeletons in the closet. And this is why so many of us that are the family Cursebreakers won't have contact with this family. Because if we don't do that, they can't pass on the torch. And then we've saved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in this family. Now the reason this spiritually comes with good karma and spiritual protection, and I'll get into that soon, is because further up along this bloodline, you had one of these generations where there were 4 children. And you had passed black sheep and scapegoats that didn't feel good in this system. But they didn't have the possibility of breaking this chain or whatever it was in their case that made them not do so. They didn't dare to, they didn't have the self-dependence to do that or whatever it might have been. But there might have been 3 or 4 or maybe 1 person in each of those several child groups further up along the road that wanted to break this. They couldn't, they failed, they tried, it was impossible. They're going to be watching over you and protecting you because you did what they incarnated to do, but couldn't fulfill. So they're going to stand there cheering you on. And if anyone from this group is trying to break this barrier or break you, they're going to have pushback from these people, your ancestors. And this is why I say to many of the curse breakers to do ancestry work, because they have a lot of ancestors that wants to help them now. Because you're the champion. You're the one that managed to do what the rest of them didn't do. So they see you as the family victor. Not really, but sorta. Now you're going to have a problem because these people does not view it like that. They see you as the family saboteur or betrayer. So they're going to paint a really bad picture of you. And this is why it's so detrimental to say that people that don't have contact with their families are a red flag. Sometimes they are the greenest flag in their entire bloodline. But from these people's viewpoint, it's not going to be like that. They're going to trash talk you. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure that if you ever dare to insult the family and hurt the family's reputation by talking, they need everyone to view you as decrepit, void, and illegitimate by any means necessary. There is no rules in love and war, and this has just become a war. Full on. Never doubt that. Because in their eyes, if this part comes out, everything is game over for them. Because they've dedicated their whole lives to keeping this secret. And you risk wasting all of their effort and energy and everything they've sacrificed by causing this game over by speaking out. The ironic part is that the spiritual task for many of us curse breakers is to do exactly this. Often we come with blocked throat chakras hindering us from speaking our truths efficiently. And that is by purpose and design to stop you from achieving the goal, to break the cycle, to speak the truth. That's your task. Now you're going to have to do that in a way that these people does not become a danger or a threat to you, but in a clear enough way so that you can help other curse breakers to do the same thing, so that we have as many healed bloodlines and family lines as possible. Because hurt people do hurt people. It spreads. Because even if you break this column off and you make a new fresh start for your bloodline over here, going on, you have 1 generation, 2 generation, 3 generations down the line that is unaffected by this dysfunction. Yeah, that's a good job. You did great, sincerely. But if this part of the family had siblings of yours, they had other children, or you had relatives, so you have a sister of a sister of a sister over here that had kids, like this, you're going to have a problem, because they're going to pass down, they know they can't pass down anything here. And you've decided to break this. And this is also why you see so many family curse breakers not having contact with their whole family system. They chose instead to pass this down to this person carrying the torch that had 3 children that all carries the torch, at least 2 of them, let's say. One perhaps became a Cursebreaker like you over here. You then have 2 more children. They had children, and then it's going to multiply and become a whole tree of torchbearers, still keeping this dysfunction in place to hide the skeletons in the closet. And they're bringing the pain of keeping that dysfunction alive onto all of these generations onward. Except for this one where they broke the curse. So, this is why we have divided family trees. And it's for the same here. They're going to spread it onward. And of course, down the line, you're going to have complicated situations where, like in my case, I realize that if I have children and I allow them to hang out with these people, they're going to become torchbearers as well. And if these children hang out with my future grandchildren, then I've done all of this progress. I've gone through all of this pain and hurt and suffering and struggle to make it on my own, just for my kids being influenced this way around. They might not become torchbearers, but they carry the pain that these people influenced into them in some way. So in order to keep that from happening, a lot of us choose to break off that whole section and start anew. A lot like Noah's Ark. You block off this system entirely. And you only bring those from this system that might be unaffected and choosing a different path as well. So, spiritually, do not be surprised if these people, the second you break this bond and start pushing on forward with this section, by you cutting this line for them, they're all of a sudden going to have increased pain, increased misfortunes, and so forth. That is not your fault. You will be accused of having done witchcraft, or wishing them ill, or sabotaging for them, or they're going to say you're the problem. But as you remove yourself, their situation is going to worsen. And the reason for that is that spiritual entity attachment is really common with these people carrying these torches of pain. Because those entities feed on the energy from those carrying the pain and suffering and so forth. So, demon time. When the connection is severed, these demons cannot feed off of you, which in some cases means that it's going to increase on their part, and they're going to start blaming you for sabotaging them, believing you're talking shit, or believing that you are doing all kinds of things. In the meantime, you're just over here minding your business. You're not even thinking about these people. More than, of course, I should say, there's always, with this, going to be grief. We're being called heartless. We're not. We're always facing grief. This process, I'm painting this as a victor story over here with the pokal. It's not. It feels like total grief, heartbreak. It feels like being a monster. But you know you're not. You know why you're doing this. As you go along, these people's demons is going to increase the suffering, and they're going to desperately try to win you back. The more you succeed on your journey, the more they're going to try and get you back, reel you in to reinforce the system, because they believe if they can reinforce and feed the demons, it's all going to solve itself. They're doing everything they can to not have to do the work and let go of the torch. And you will want to and feel a desire and need to tell them that if you let go of the torches, everything's going to be great for every one of us. But their life, they imagine their life to be dependent on carrying the torches. And they believe that if they can get you back into this system by saying they've changed, offering to go to therapy, all that, everything's going to be fine again because they've learned. No, most of the time they have not. Your task is to wipe out the grief and sorrow. You cannot take responsibility and become codependent. A lot of us are codependents as well. You cannot go back and fix this. They have to do that themselves. They can only pass this bridge if they do the work, and most of them will not. So your job is to make sure that the pain and the suffering does not inherit itself down the line, to not spread this grief on over. And this comes with a lot of dilemmas and hardships and questions that we don't have answers to. That's part of your job, to tell others how you got through it and how you healed the bloodline efficiently. For all of these coming generations, as much as for your own self. The reason you're also going to realize that the reason you're having issues with trauma, finding the wrong partners all the time and so forth, is because it's an inherited curse. It's an example of these inherited curses that everyone in the family line shares until someone breaks the pattern. Someone breaks the chain, the curse. As in marrying and having children with narcissists or psychopaths, or inheriting cluster B disorders or similar. The reward for all of this effort is that you get a chance to have a healthy relationship, a healed relation to yourself, and children that has the childhood and the family you wish you would have had. And by seeing them having that, you're also healing and getting what you once wished for indirectly by them. Now make sure that you're not trying to live through your kids, because then you're inventing a new torch to be carried down the line. Allow them to live their own lives and don't push your needs and your old desires onto them. Make sure to not become the perpetrator you tried to stop. They say that if you want to become a different parent than your own former parents and relatives, you need to choose one thing that you practice daily on doing different. One thing. Choose wisely. Is it that you want everyone to feel heard and listened to? Is it that you want to be a forgiving person? Is it that you want to be a role model? Is it that you want to teach them healthy relationship patterns? One thing. If you try and attempt at doing a whole list of things, the professionals in this say that it's more unlikely that you're going to succeed. Choose one thing to focus on mainly. And then you've done your part. Some of us, often it is that you manage to remove one torch from the family. If you've managed to make sure that the 5 torches this person was carrying only becomes 2 torches in your case and 1 case, and you manage to teach this child to remove the last torch, you've still done a good job. You've still managed to break 1 or 2 or 3 curses. And the difference between people that can have relationships with their former parents is the ones that can see that their parents at least removed some of the torches from the previous generations that might have had in their case 10 torches. Because you can see that they did the best they could in removing half of those. And now you can continue on by removing half of those, if it's complicated enough. The more advanced and extreme curse breakers come from families that didn't break off any of these. They have 10 and they have 10 and they have 10 and they keep on having 10 all the way through because no one has the interest of removing torches. So they dedicate their whole lives to removing all the torches, and often that is at the cost of them not reaching other goals in life instead, being stunted in their growth. But removing all of the torches, it's a super curse breaker. They might not have a driver's license, they might not have a great employment yet, they might not have everything in check for their own self, but they made sure that all of these torches were exempt and removed. And this is why we should not judge people that have less than us, because they might be richer than us in something else. You never know what they cleared out and why they aren't as accomplished as people would think they should be. As a curse breaker, you need to make sure that the one you're having children with, if any, also has cleaned out all of the torches from their family, or at least is capable of making sure that these torches aren't inherited down from his side as well, because then despite having rinsed out your torches on your part, it's nullified because this person brings it in anyhow. And this is why it's so hard for the curse breaker to find a good enough partner for making a family. And this is also why many of us don't have kids yet, or perhaps won't have. And then we get into that point. When you're the curse breaker, it's not going to only heal your kids, because you might not have any, but it's going to also heal things for the friends around you that doesn't need to carry and handle this torch of pain, the co-workers that spends 8 hours a day alongside you and doesn't have co-works that doesn't have to deal with or inherit this as well. It's going to affect everyone around you, like club mates, I don't know. And I don't mean like that, like when you have a sewing club together where you sew hats. They're also going to be saved from this torch of pain. You're also in this, if you do your spiritual task and you start speaking about your journey and how you did and how you healed, you're also helping to heal society and the other groups as well, mainstream. You might have an account, you might have a YouTube channel, you might have anything where you spread this to others as well. So even if you won't have kids, your job hasn't been in vain. You still have these left. You might also affect future generations by writing a book that future generations with the same problem will read. So you're still carrying on, and this is why we're talking about these people, the Cursebreakers, having a so-called legacy or inheritance that's not directly monetical, even though this probably turns into that. They have a legacy and an inheritance. They're handing on downward. This might turn into money, but it's also a viewpoint and handing down the legacy and inheritance of band-aids to people. And that is the family Cursebreaker. It's a tough job. You can do it. You're already doing it. Truth, not fear. Blessed be.